Yo guys, this is Pepols and this is probably going on Bueller's channel. So you guys could always go back over onto my channel today because I posted a market like prep type thingy which should show you into like the routine, what you should be looking at in pre-market and all that good stuff. It'll give you a very good idea of what I was looking at today and how I followed my plan, and I used the BB system plus the setups that were taught to catch a banging trade 610% on the final contract. It was pretty nuts. I'll just quickly do an overview and what I was going over this morning, what I was looking for, what I ended up taking, and we'll go through like candle by candle through the setup of the trade, and then I'll just show you the points where I exited. And I actually took a little bit of calls later in the day, so we'll go over that also. Let me just go on to the 15. I feel like the 15 would be a pretty good candle or a time chart for us to look at here. So we can obviously see this previous all-time high. I was looking at this liquidity sweep here. How we know it's a liquidity sweep is we get that 90% entry Bueller and Leland and I and stuff talk about, and we get a very strong reaction. So clear liquidity sweep right there. And we also have previous day high marked right here too. Oh god, can't stop yawning, I apologize. We have that marked too, and I just marked this as a no trade zone for me. And we had previous day low marked to look for an outside bar setup down there, so if price wants to come down, reject this and continue, or if we want to do like a base build, get that outside bar stuff that Leland made the video on in the second course, so check that out if you have not seen that yet. And we ended up only having that marked in the morning, but what I had marked later in the day was just this fib and then this fair value gap right here on the 5-minute, just in discount here, just to show where price might want to pull back to before we move higher. So let me now go into the 1-minute and we'll just go over some candles. Here. So this is open. Oh, this is kind of too slow for me. I have like too much ADHD for this, not gonna lie. I'll just describe it like this. And open, bearish, end up reclaiming open. So now you need to look at the information that you have around you with this, and it's, do we keep control of open and push over this resistance, or do we have weakness in this resistance and end up getting us set up to the downside? So that's the two things we're looking for: weakness or strength through this resistance. Because if there's strength, we're going to look for a break above and a retest and continuation, and if there's weakness, we're going to look for a lead test, a 90%, those reversal setups, and take those to the downside. So at first, we pop up here, we get kind of a rejection. I bet some people kind of got a little excited in the morning and took some puts here, but we need to remember we just reclaimed current day open. We need to see more seller weakness before we end up taking a trade. We end up holding current day open and making an inside bar and pushing off of it. And this is when we start getting into this resistance no trade area. Let's start reading these candles, guys. So we get a nice break of this inside bar, a little bit of a top wick, but nothing insane. It's not like this candle. So showing sellers are stepping a little bit. Then we get an inside bar, then we get a doji, then we get another inside bar. So what are these 3 candles? What are these 4 candles right here? Because look at this. This is like an inverse doji too. What are these 3 candles showing us? If my thing wants to, or 4. Those right there are showing me that buyers are losing strength and their sellers present. So now you just need to think ahead of some scenarios that we could have. Buyers, could continue to hold this and push up, which we almost did, but we failed to push this high, or they could come back down and hold current day open, and then we could get a move up, which we also tried to do with this hammer candle right here, which I called out in stream, we're getting a little bit of strength in the 1 minute, which is just this hammer here. But I wasn't convinced yet. I wanted to see calls above this, and I wanted to see if we would come back up, because if you actually look right here on the 1 minute, this is a low, and we just made a lower low. So we're breaking structure on the 1 minute, but we're also holding current day open. So again, you got to think about what could happen here. We could reclaim this low and kind of get that like 90% entry, or we could see price come up, fail around this like 0.5 fib here, and then start to push lower and break back down. So we could get like a 90% like each way here, but I'm not going to play the 90% to the upside, because I already said I'm going to wait to play calls until we're above this big resistance area. So I'm looking for this 90% to the downside. I'm waiting, for this push above here to fail. So we end up pushing up. There's probably some people thinking, ooh, buyers at current day open, ignoring the massive resistance, and then we start to push back down. Now with this trade, I entered light, like a light 3 contracts, like $3 out of the money, because I was like, there's news in a minute. So let's say we get news opens and we just pump. I'm sized pretty light, so I'm just going to lose a little bit of my account, and I can move on to the next trade, or I could even just go, okay, I'm done for the day. So we enter here, 3 contracts, and the next candle was the news candle. I'm going to be honest, I was scrolling through Apple and Nvidia, and I didn't see super big moves at that time. What, that was 10 o'clock? Yeah, look at their candles at 10. Here, let's look at Nvidia at 10 o'clock. Yeah, see? Look at Nvidia at 10. No reaction like SPY. So I was looking at these. I was like, okay, no crazy reactions. And then I switched back over to SPY, and I'm like, holy crap, look at this wick. But still, when I enter here on a trade like this, I tend to put my stop right above the previous high. Sometimes I will go a little bit looser. Kind of depends on the trade and the positioning and everything like that, where my entry is. And of course, the looser the stop, the lighter the size I have. I would usually enter with full size here if there wasn't news. But we get this drop and we get a wick up. I bet some people got pretty scared there. I don't even know how fast this was, because I wasn't watching, so I don't know if I would have been able to get a sell there or not. I was just, kind of like, oh shoot, we hit past my target of current day open, and we hit this target here. So I ended up just watching, this candle here tries to come back up. I'm like, okay, we might see a retest of this high, we might see a push and a close above, and I get stopped out. It's whatever, we're sized pretty light, so I'm not going to be mad. And this candle just steps in and like shatters through current day open, and I was like, shoot, there's some like real buy or seller strength right here, especially with a candle like that. Like, oh my lord. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have my first scale be at these lows right here, like that, because price came right down to the low of day, and that's where we wicked off of. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have my first scale right down here. We end up flushing through this, and I get filled like somewhere down in here. It was crazy. We're moving insane. So that's where we scaled right here, and then this is after this is where levels from the previous day started stepping in. Or no, actually, this is where we had a re-entry. So one thing I was paying attention to is I was in one runner at this point. I scaled 2 contracts right here at around 100%. The contracts went from 0.18, 0.18 to 0.3. So it was kind of close to 100%. It was like, I don't know, too stupid to do that math. Anyway, though, it was a good percentage gain there. Then, we start getting this pullback. and I'm looking to see a point of invalidation for sellers, and I see us pulling back to current day open. Here, I gotta keep that. I see us pulling back to current day open here, and I see us pulling back to this fair value gap right there. And if we take our fib from the high to now low of day, we're coming back and retesting this area too. So there's a lot of resistance here that bears are going to want to reject for us to continue. And you know, we come up into this fair value gap, push into this like golden pocket 0.5, push into current day open, and this is where you got to start reading the candles, because we can either blow through this and I get stopped out, or there's a good re-entry. So again, you know, we get some strong buyer candles, but then look at this weakness, and then it's like we pop up to the top of this fair value gap, fail to like displace through it, make an inside bar, and then break down, and I'm like, okay, load the puts. And now this is where we're getting in with our like full size position. So we enter a few contracts here a bit closer in the money. So our position is a bit more than this, probably like around double. And we just sell down to this low, and I scale my first cons here, my first 3 cons right there. And then this is like kind of the one mistake I made in this trade, because I was like, I'm just gonna keep one contract now. But I really, since there was 2 different trades, I should have just scaled 2 here and left 2 runners, because then I could have scaled 1 right down here at previous day low, and then I could have scaled 1 at my last scale. That would have been a lot better. But anyway, then yeah, that was like the first trade of the day there. Then, you know, I just ended up watching this downtrend, lower highs all the way down, and eventually sold down here for that big 16, or not 16, shit, 610%. So the contract went from 0.18 all the way to 110, 1.1, which is 110, $18 to $110 on my contract, which is crazy. But yeah, let's just do a quick overview before I show my other trade for the day, which we took a little bit of money from. It was moving pretty slow though. But anyway, so we pop up into resistance here, look at the candles, we see buyer weakness, we see a break of structure on the 1 minute, we wait for confirmation, pull back to the 0.5 and a bearish rejection, we enter, you know, we scale at the low of day, then we see price pull back to current day open, a 1 minute fair value gap in discount, which is just above the 0.5 and the 0.5. We see bulls fail to push through it and bears respect the fair value gap. We enter on the rejection of it, which was a 2-1-2 reversal. A 2 candle is a trend candle, a 1 is an inside bar, and a 2 is a trend candle. So 2-1-2. We enter on that reversal pattern, sell at the lows, and then we just sell our final contract all the way down on that higher time frame retracement that we're looking at. So now let's start to look at the 5 minute and what I was looking at down here. So I knew that this was a big pullback area right down here, because of this 50% in this fair value gap and discount. See, this is just a higher time frame version of what we were looking at up here. See the 0.5 and the pullback to the fair value gap. That's the 0.5. This is the fair value gap. So let me delete this stuff from this trade here. Real quick. Alright. So what I'm looking at is, now I'm looking at the higher time frames, because I try to trade on the lower time frames a lot, and I find that looking at the like 5 and the 15 is very beneficial for me to be patient and wait for the correct move, for the correct buy the dip. And it did me really well here. So what I ended up doing, waiting on the 5, I see this lower high right here, We fail to push through at first, and then we break through. So now we're breaking structure to the upside. And I mark this fib from here to here, and I mark this fair value gap right here, like this, and I'm waiting for price to come back, retest this, get a bullish reaction. I end up seeing this inside bar right here, and I was waiting for a breakout on either side of it on the lower time frame, like this. Here, I'll just go on the 1 minute. So I was waiting for something like this. And play that to this upside, but as you see, we end up flushing through this, pulling back into this fair value gap. So what we see is price pull down, flush through this fair value gap, and I'm now thinking and looking for like low of day to break for puts, but then we get this very bullish outside bar right here, and then we also get a strong hammer on the 15. So now this is where I'm looking to enter on the lower time frames, and I'm looking to see if price comes up and finds support right here back at this fair value gap. This is like on the 1 minute now, basically aligns with the 5, and we see price come back up and retest, and we start to get a bullish reaction off of this fair value gap. And then we can also see like one right here, like that we're holding to. So I ended up entering calls. Where's my circle? Right here. On this right here. On this candle breaking up this inside bar. And I was honestly being a little greedy with my take profits. I should have taken some on the break above this high right here, and then stuff like that. Of course, keep my stop at a close right below this low, like that. And we never ended up getting stopped out, but we ended up taking our first profits right up here. This was kind of a bit of a sloppy trade. Ended up taking first profits at 522 on this candle right here. So let me just mark this. So we scaled at 522, and then we scaled more up here when we push this. And then our last scale was towards the end of day when we came up and these cons got juiced up here. Yeah, so let me just go over this. You know, wait for a break of structure on the higher time frames like the 5 minute, wait for a pullback into discount to the fair value gap, and then look for a setup on the 1. We end up, you know, coming up, seeing higher lows back at these fair value gaps here, pulling back to other fair value gaps and stuff, enter on the inside bar breakup. You know, a lot of basing here, a lot of basing. It was kind of crappy, but gotta let your trade play out, stick to your stop. And we end up hitting our first take profit at 522 psych, second at this high that we made that broke structure on the 5, and the final scale was the previous day low. Yeah, so what you guys should be doing too is the same thing that I'm doing right now. You know, I make these, I probably have months and months of videos, you know, just in my files, like hundreds of videos of me reviewing morning and night what I'm doing. You know, my pre-market plan, did I stick to it? You know, what trades did I take? Were they good trades? Were they bad trades? Everything like that. So every morning, just make a video going over your game plan. Watch it every night after market, and then go over your trades and compare what you did compared to your game plan. What did price do compared to your game plan? You know, what was price action doing? How did you react to that price action? How did you trade around that price action? Did you trade in crappy areas that you said not to trade in? You know, pre-market, like I said, I wasn't going to trade calls in this area. I stuck to that, and I didn't trade calls in this area. If I were to take calls in this area, I would have to hold myself accountable and, you know, realize that I did wrong and I have to do better next time. You know, I can't just brush that stuff under the rug. But yeah, hopefully this video kind of helped you guys how I was looking at price action, and how I can look at my pre-market game plan, and you know how I look at the charts before market opens and how I stick to that and everything like that. And I'm not perfect. I'm kind of yapping right now, but I'm not perfect or anything. There's days where I just completely skip it and I have a red day and it's ass, but just I know if I hold myself accountable and keep showing back up to the market, eventually I'll be like freaking Bueller, Mellon, Leland, and the other crazy traders in the chat or whatever. So yeah, thank you for watching, guys.